So what happens when the federal government just decides to turn off the money for the entire country? I mean, all of it. We're going to dive into this story about a nationwide funding crisis that really put the incredible power of Washington, D.C. into super sharp focus.
Okay, just imagine this for a second. You get an email, or maybe see it on the news. That federal money, the money that helps you pay for your kids' daycare, it's gone, cut off, effective right now. For thousands and thousands of families and childcare providers all over the country, this wasn't some what-if scenario. This was suddenly their new, terrifying reality. And there it is. That was the official, super hardline stance from the administration. No beating around the bush. This came from a top official at Health and Human Services, and boy, was it a clear message. It basically set the stage for what was about to become a massive, massive showdown. And that right there, that's the big question at the heart of this whole thing, isn't it? Was this a totally necessary move to shield our taxpayer money from fraud? Or was it a political sword aimed at something else? So in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. What happened, why it happened, and what it really tells us about the power of the federal purse.
All right, first up, the money spigot shuts off. Let's talk about the chaos, the confusion, and the collateral damage. I mean, we really have to start with what happened on the ground, right? The immediate shockwave that hit the country the second that spigot was turned. You know, almost instantly, people just flooded social media. They were furious. And this comment here from a Reddit user, wow, it really nails the feeling, doesn't it? This sense of being just a pawn, of being part of this collective punishment for something you had absolutely nothing to do with. So you have to ask, how in the world did one viral video about alleged fraud in Minnesota blow up into a full-blown nationwide crisis? Seriously, all of a sudden, all 50 states were put on notice. And to get their money turned back on, they had to come up with this mountain of new paperwork. We're talking daily attendance records, investigations into complaints, the whole 9 yards. It's no surprise that Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz right away called it out for what he believed it was, a purely political move. Okay, Section 2, protecting America's bank account. So what was the official reason for such a dramatic move? Well, it all circles back to one key policy document, an executive order designed to fight fraud across the entire government. So the administration's whole justification really starts with this one just staggering number. Get this. According to the Government Accountability Office, the federal government loses somewhere between $233 and $521 billion to fraud every single year. I mean, that's up to $500 billion. So that's the context, right? That's the massive problem they use to frame this whole crackdown. And the executive order itself, it frames its mission in these really stark terms. It talks about protecting America's bank account. And you gotta believe that language was chosen very, very carefully. They weren't just talking about, some bureaucratic waste here and there. They were framing this as an urgent mission to stop the country's main bank account from being completely drained. So, how were they gonna do it? Well, the executive order laid out a pretty clear three-part solution. First step, consolidate all the financial systems under one roof, the Treasury Department. Second step, enhance verification before any money goes out the door. Screen for fraud first. And third, reduce the number of government offices that are even allowed to send out payments. See, this was never just about childcare. It was a blueprint for tightening control over all federal spending. All right, Section 3, crackdown or collective punishment. Now we're gonna go back to Minnesota, the place where this whole thing kicked off, because this is really where you see the two totally opposite sides of this story just slam into each other. Okay, so you've got two completely different stories here. On one hand, the people who supported the freeze, they point to years of actual fraud investigations in Minnesota. I'm talking about a massive $300 million pandemic food scheme. A federal prosecutor even went on record alleging that half or more of the $18 billion in federal funds sent to Minnesota since 2018 might have been stolen. Their argument was simple. The state wasn't acting fast enough. But then you have the other side. They said no way. They claimed this was a political hit job, plain and simple, triggered not by new evidence, but by some influencer's video, and that it was really just collective punishment to hurt a blue state and innocent families. And just look at the scale of these allegations. We're talking about a potential $9 billion stolen out of a total of $18 billion. That's half. Now, whether that number is 100% accurate or not, an allegation that massive, well, that's all the justification an administration really needs to say, okay, we have to act, and we have to act now. Okay, Section 4, the power of the purse. This brings us to a really critical point. Was this whole childcare freeze just an isolated incident, a one-off,
Or was it actually part of a much bigger pattern, a strategy of using political leverage?
So, was this the only time federal funding has been used as a lever against Minnesota? Well, the answer seems to be no. And we find that answer in court documents from a totally separate case, which really suggests there's a pattern here.
Now get this. This quote is from a different lawsuit that Minnesota was fighting with the administration at the very same time. And just listen to the wording. It sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? The state is accusing the administration of, quote, bullying vulnerable children in this state.
So in this other lawsuit, the fight was about something completely different. It was about state versus federal policy on transgender students in school sports. So what did the federal government do? They threatened to pull Department of Justice grants from schools in Minnesota. Now this is money for things like school violence prevention. And the goal was to force the Minnesota Attorney General to back down and reverse his legal opinion. It's a pretty clear example of using the power of the purse on one issue to force a state's hand on a totally separate, unrelated issue. All right, last section, a question of control. So, what's the big takeaway here? When you boil it all down, what are we really talking about? Well, it's a fundamental conflict between efficiency and coercion that exists right at the heart of modern government. Think about it. On one side, centralizing control over all that federal cash, it makes a lot of sense, right? It's a powerful tool to fight waste and protect taxpayer money from these massive fraud schemes. But, and this is a huge but, that very same power, once it's all in one place, can be turned into a weapon. It can be used to enforce political will, creating huge conflicts when the federal and state governments just don't see eye to eye. Suddenly, the power of the purse becomes a tool in political fight.
And that leaves us with one final critical question. Look, fighting fraud is absolutely essential. Everybody agrees on that. But this entire crisis really pulls back the curtain on this delicate and maybe even dangerous balance between accountability and power. So the ultimate question is this: who gets to decide when the money spigot gets turned off? And what's stopping that incredible power from being abused?